Let me talk first about your numbers and what the market sees in your results. Right now, we're looking at shares that are actually off a little bit, and I wonder why, because when I look at the headlines, it seems you beat and raised.
Yes. So obviously, as part of the management, I'm not supposed to comment on our share price development. So I think that obviously we have seen, unsurprisingly, a mixed second quarter. However, also on the other hand, ahead of our own expectations. That means that the reason for the slight margin upgrade that you have seen is that first of all, the COVID-19 impact on our numbers in the second quarter was not as severe as we would have anticipated in May. And secondly, and that is a very positive note, when we look a little bit further into the second quarter and if we assess the performance month by month, we have seen two pretty bad months, April and May, but we have seen at the same time a significant recovery in June, and that gives us a lot of confidence that the expected recovery for the third and fourth quarter of the year will actually happen, and that has also led us to raise slightly the lower end of the EBITDA guidance for 2020.
Marcus, you sound quite optimistic about the recovery of COVID-19. You're also working with Oxford in the United Kingdom as well as Baylor College in the United States. How soon could we see these vaccines that you're helping to work with to these two universities? How soon can we see those vaccines come to market?
That's a good question, actually. And if I had a crystal ball, I would feel more confident to give you an answer now. All I can say is that, so indeed, we have, I would say, a broad coverage of activities where we are supporting the UK KGaA Institute, as you rightly mentioned. We are also working in a consortium with other pharma companies and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to accelerate the development of vaccines and so on and so forth. There is good progress. However, I think that it will take at least another 9 to 12, maybe even 15 months, so well into 2021 before we might have a vaccine that also works.
What do you think about the possibility of revenue? I mean, right now everyone's being very altruistic about it, talking about, giving vaccines for cost or for free. And clearly this is a tragic pandemic. But at the end of the day, you spend money on R&D in order to make drugs and sell them for profit. So what does the possibility of revenue look like connected to this coronavirus?
Of course, there are also, let's say, economic opportunities associated to that. When we look on this a little bit more in detail, it is very clear to say that in general, for us as a pharma company, vaccines are generally less attractive from a value perspective compared to, for example, therapies, as we generally sell less of our portfolio, much less into vaccines compared to therapies. And also when we look on the different kinds and ways on how to vaccinate, also there are differences. So for example, the so-called messenger RNA vaccines is from the value perspective for us the least attractive, as this approach does not have an upstream part. Instead, it is basically based on chemical synthesis and only requires relatively small portions of our downstream offerings. On the other hand, the most attractive would be a viral vector or recombinant DNA vaccine, as we would be selling various up and downstream components from our portfolio. And for example, our mentioned collaboration with the KGaA Institute is exactly going in that direction.
Another big topic in the news, of course, has been diversity, Marcus. Companies are really starting to look internally at their structure, even individuals within themselves. What are you doing on this front? You recently named a deputy CEO who is a woman, but what sort of conversations are you having to elevate women and also minorities to more senior positions at your company?
Yeah, so let me tell you that diversity plays a very important role in our company, not only very recently, but also since quite a while. And so, for example, just to give you an example, the topic of gender diversity and bringing women into senior leadership positions at Merck is already now the second year in a row a key performance indicator in our company scorecard for all of our employees. So everybody has, let's say, as part of his or her incentivization, the judgment on a KPI which gauges the progress that we make of bringing female leaders into senior positions.
I
so
want to
it
go
plays
back
a big
to.
role.
I want to go back to a comment you made about management not being able to comment on a share price development, Marcus. Just ask you about that, because if I'm an investor in Merck, I own an asset and you are my agent in taking care of that asset. At the end of the day, the main thing I want to know is how much is that asset worth and how much is that value going to climb. It seems to me like talking about the development of the share price is literally one of your most important jobs as an agent of the owner. Why wouldn't you be able to comment on that?
Because the judgment of the share price actually is, let's say, something that our investors should do and judge. I mean, we are responsible for a good company performance and for actually moving the share price in the right direction. That means up. But it is not on us to judge whether this, I would say, endeavor or effort was finally successful enough. That is your job.